And good morning, everyone, and welcome to Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. That's right, this is Alexi. You can barely understand me. I can barely hear myself because I have one of those dreaded lurgies that have been kicking around our community for the last couple of weeks. I finally got it off my daughter who was sick last week, and now I'm sick. So I'm doing my best. What was her name? Lauren Hudson from the 70s, who used to smoke too much. I'm doing my impression of Lauren Hudson. So welcome everyone to the show. I'm super excited to be back after a week off. And a special welcome, of course, to all of our bookkeeping brothers and sisters out there who are going through hell on earth with end of financial year. I hope it's being good to you. So today is a very interesting show. I'm super excited to be bringing on a guest to be talking all about something that we don't often talk about in business, which is our creative side, which is our right-hand brains. I'm not talking to all you graphic designers out there. You guys are fabulous at tapping into this. I'm talking to you, the rest of us who are very business-minded, especially people like me, admin and bookkeeping. I have no right-hand side of my brain. I think it's completely dormant. But we're going to be talking about colour. We're going to be talking about the importance of bringing it to life in your business, not necessarily through advertising and promotion. I'm not talking about that side. I'm actually talking about the importance of bringing colour into your business space and working with and different elements just to bring a little bit of good mental health into your business, really. It's a way of opening your horizons and thinking differently about the way you work. And today I've got my fabulous guest with me, Natasha, on the show. Welcome to the show, Natasha. Oh, I better turn you on. That would help. There you go.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Very, very good to have you. So what we're going to be talking about today is your background, which I'm super excited. You've brought along some wonderful artworks, which we're actually going to be showing on our Facebook page. You can have a look at that a little bit later. But we're going to be talking about colour in the workplace. Now, you are an expert in your field when it comes to colour. You're, of course, a local artist based over in the Northern Beaches. And you work with colour not only in terms of art and in that side of your professional life, but also in your day job as well, which we're going to tap on a little bit later as well. So tell me about your background. What's your journey, your small business journey, and what's brought you to becoming an artist, which is something very different to what we normally talk about on the show.
Yes, well, I do have a traditional fine arts background. So when I left high school, I really wanted to pursue my creative side. I was always a writer, and I did dabble a little bit in painting, but I decided that I wanted to somehow fit creative into my career. So I thought the traditional fine arts background would be a great place to start. And I wasn't sure exactly, where I wanted to take that to begin with. And that kind of evolved. So the traditional fine arts training is 9 hours of drawing a week. And drawing is fundamental. Your pencil and your paper, that's the backbone.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So with that, I studied the painting, your very traditional painting, all the masters, printmaking, photography, art history, and sculpture as well. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I moved on to Sydney University to do a visual arts degree. That gave me a really good combination of having that really structured fine arts background and then moving into a space which is a lot more conceptual. University and the creative at the university is a lot more about writing your essays and
academic.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly. So that was a really good combination. And from there, I actually did a master's degree of design science. I moved to the architecture faculty there. So, and I did a background I learned a lot about this digital space. So I did.
How long ago was that? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, long enough ago.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it can't be that long ago that they were really using and starting to implement digital as part of the finance.
It was in the beginning. That's right.
Yeah.
Probably 15 years ago now.
Yeah. Well, they were very forward-thinking to be even thinking about that then, to be bringing it into the classic fine arts degrees, to be already thinking about digital. I can imagine it's a big component of what kids are learning about now.
Definitely, and I got to really play around and be creative. In photography, I was literally drawing on my negatives and putting them in the
solution.
Exposure. Yes, that's right. And it was very hands-on. I did experimental photography, but then I was able to, use Photoshop to manipulate that. So I knew it was really important to embrace both sides of it, the digital and the creative. But my heart has always been the pencil and paper. That's where I feel the most freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So then I went on to have a career, actually a little bit of a graphic design career, and then I went into the marketing corporate sector. And, from there I actually... I separated myself a little bit from my art unintentionally, and I really wanted to get back into that. So I learnt Japanese printmaking technique, and not many people know the original woodblock technique, where the Japanese, of course, are very
precise.
That's right. Everything is just their tea making. Everything's a ritual. So it's about the ritual of how you sharpen your tools and you carve into your work. So I started to, I studied that for a few years and built, it basically rejuvenated my passion again for the creative, because I felt graphic design for me actually took me away from
I've spoken.
Paper.
It's funny that a lot of people who are that are beautiful artistic backgrounds, they sort of fall into that career in the marketing and advertising side of things where they're just, moving images and print around the screen, and it doesn't really have any...
Make the logo bigger.
Yeah. And it doesn't really have any... You lose your passion. That's exactly right.
Yep.
So how did you bring that back in again? You did some more study, which is always a really good idea. I mean, I'm talking broadly here to people who might have gone through that corporate experience and gone, nah, I've just lost it. And sometimes going back to study is what reconnects you with that passion and that love that you have. And I guess out of that you came up with the idea of where to go to next.
That's right, because I really studied about how to mix colours together, and that's where the whole colour passion began, because printmaking is all about your inks. Everything is to scratch. You've got to mix your inks by hand. It's very rustic. You've got to... the press is huge. You've got to have a bit of muscle to actually press your, your wood block onto paper and run it through the press. And it's all very mechanical. And I love getting back to that, getting my hands dirty again and inking everything up. And then you really need to understand your colours. And it's so important, the combinations that you use. And, and having the skill from being a graphic designer to be able to... balance my compositions combined with my use of colour, that's where everything started to kick off. And and from there printmaking is quite it's time consuming. It took me many months in the beginning just to make a few prints. So then I decided to use this technique on watercolour paper using my liquid acrylics, and I came up with a quite interesting technique. It's a very interesting painterly technique where then I hand draw on my paintings as well, and you can see the influence of the printmaking coming through there.
And the drawing.
Yes, exactly. So I sort of ended up,
it's
coming
that journey.
Round circle. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I mean, there's so many of us as small businesses, we sort of have one of those, it is circular, exactly. Yeah. It's sort of that thing where you sort of dip into what did I used to do? What were my skill sets that I used to be good at? What can I bring back into my business? What if I want to move away back into something else? And I think it's a great way for you to do that is reconnect with your passions, reconnect with that through maybe a little bit of education to figure out where you want to go. Now, you're one of the lucky ones. I mean, you've managed to find a wonderful blend of having a position in a company, in a small business enterprise, while still being able to balance your artistic side and put on exhibitions and be a proper, for want of a better word, please slap me over the wrist if I'm using the wrong word, but an artist in your own right. Now, how do you work that balance? Tell me a little bit about the position that you have that is in your professional side, in your JOB side, if you will, because you've managed to find something that still drives your passion and keeps you going. And it's not graphic design.
No, that's exactly right. Don't do any graphic design anymore. So, I work for a company called Home Instead, the in-home senior care, and I'm a representative for that company. They're a small company. My office is based in Pymble, and my area I represent the north side, so all the way Pittwater to Chatswood, and really my role is about being involved in the community and giving back to the community, finding out the needs of the people, so I can report back and enhance, figure out ways that we can enhance the business. And the role when I started, I have a great boss. He said, make the role your own. And I proposed to him that I do art therapy classes because I have done teaching, in the past.
And you're an artist.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And so it's something I'm always excited about, to be able to get into a room, and I don't like calling it art therapy because for me, it is a meditative kind of thing when I paint. In a way, it's sort of a therapy, splashing inks around and using certain colours to enhance your mood. But I just call them art classes. It's a bit of fun. Let's just get our hands dirty with splashing some inks around for an hour. And so I go around to the villages. And I do free art class, as well as I do an artist talk as well, where I talk about the psychology of colour. So that is a big part of my role, and it's been so well received. People just love having their minds it's not a distraction. It's just learning a new skill and just exploring a new technique.
Something different.
That's right. It takes their minds off whatever's going on. It's about sitting in a space and learning about switching your mind off to everything that's going on.
That's right. And what we don't normally think about, something that's very, very difficult for small businesses to do is to switch off your brains and not think about your business. It's almost impossible. You sleep, you eat, you breathe it. You can be constantly doing it. It's not like you down tools at 5 p.m. I don't know. Well, hats off to any businesses who can do that because it's very, very difficult. We're just going to take a quick community service announcement. When we come back, we're going to talk to Natasha a little bit more about how you can bring that art therapy concept into your own business, giving yourself a break, using colour to make it a more soothing workplace for yourself. You are listening to Triple H 100.1 FM to Small Biz Matters, and you'll be back after this. Now, speaking of getting out of the drudgery and getting out of the same four walls, now, this is a problem when you work in your business, Natasha. You often stuck at home, looking at the same space, surrounded by the same very perpendicular lines, if you will, and we don't often spend any time thinking about redesigning the space in which we work. I guess it's that self-care thing. You don't spend any time thinking, look, would it really be so bad if I got myself some flowers? If you go out in the garden and pick a couple of flowers and stick them in a vase and have them on your desk. But really it's about trying to make things a little bit more colourful. And I don't mean your corporate colours. I mean, again, back to that graphic design. Yeah. It's not about that. It's not about inspiring yourself to work harder. It's inspiring yourself to, I guess, give your brain a little bit of downtime. How do you see colour fitting into that?
It's very important. I think it's fundamental. I'm all for feng shui in your space.
Does that involve colour? I hadn't really put the two and two together.
It does. I mean, I'm a little bit of a minimalist, and when I think of my favourite artists, I remember going to an exhibition at Centre Pompidou in Paris, and they had like Kandinsky, they reformed, Kandinsky's studio, and then they had Francis Bacon's studio, what it looked like, and they were the polar opposites. Kandinsky had all his colours, and so Kandinsky Concerning the Spiritual in Art, best essay ever to read. That's my Bible.
Say that again.
Kandinsky Concerning the Spiritual in Art. Yeah, read that. It's fantastic insight on how sound, colour influences your spiritual state. So that's where I did write a massive essay on that when I was at university. So his art space is very organised. All his colours are in little boxes and it's so neat and perfect. And then you go to Francis Bacon and his was like a garbage, looked like a garbage bin. Someone had just chucked stuff everywhere. But he's sitting in the middle of it, perfectly happy. That's sort of his feng shui, if you will. And he made, they're both beautiful art, and I love both their art. So in a sense, what I'm getting to, I guess, is feng shui and minimal is for me, and Kandinsky's my ideal art space. But some people really feel comfortable living in a bit of chaos. It is a personal thing, and colour, at the end of the day, there are fundamental rules. Yellow is the happiest colour in the world, apparently.
Right. Okay.
Blue is the most corporate colour. Fast food chains, you'll notice there's a lot of yellow, red, green That's warm colours. Well, green's not warm, but, yellow and red.
Yellow and red are meant to make you hungry.
Yes, that's right. It's to stimulate your appetite. You're
so don't put yellow and red in your office.
That's right.
You spend the whole time raiding the fridge.
A little bit of green is very nature kind of colour. Black is people associate black with a bit depressing, but it's not. It's actually a very distinguished colour. A lawyer kind of. Very high corporate firms are very expensive. It's if you use black in your logo, that's what that's supposed to symbolise. There are those fundamental rules, but at the end of the day, there are religious connections you have personally with colour and your upbringing, what you've had surrounding you. So you all have your own personal connection. So that's, I guess, what makes you happy. Some people hate pink. Some people love it. If you hate pink, don't have that just because someone says it is a crisp, fun colour. But if you don't enjoy it, being around it, don't have that in your workspace. So.
I like that idea of just respecting the way that you work. Some people will really poo-poo the idea of working in chaos. But I guess it has its own organisational structure, being chaotic. As long as you know where everything is and it's not causing you stress,
that's right.
That's okay. So I guess work within the constraints of what you've already established. We've all worked for ourselves for a little while. You know what you're comfortable in. You may be quite happy to be sitting there in your Ugg boots and tracksuit pants all of the time, and that's okay. So apart from bringing in those colours because it's something that soothes you or makes you feel comfortable, what's some really easy strategies that people can do is it a good idea to change those colours up almost on a daily basis? I mean, is it as simple as doing a screensaver, or what do you think that's a good way that people can bring colour into their workspace?
Artwork. Have beautiful artwork, and that can be the feature piece. And I love your idea of the flowers, something from, something from nature, beautiful, colourful, a bit of life, a pot plant. But artwork is the easiest way. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an artist. I mean, I kind of am maybe a little bit, but it really is. You don't have to paint an entire feature wall and wallpaper this, and that would be great if you have the time. But if you want something quick and easy to change your space, they're the two. Bit of life, something that breathes.
What about those decals? What about those stick-on decals?
I do love decals. Yes, that is a great idea.
Because they're not just for kids' bedrooms anymore, are they?
No, definitely. I've been looking into designing some of those.
Can you let us know about that, please? Because that would be, oh my God, that would be awesome actually, just to have some decals that would be from a particular local artist. What a great idea. But they're not hard to find. They're certainly easy to trawl through the internet and find something, and then you can be ever changing them. Remember, everybody, they are soft plastic, so they can be added to your soft plastic recycling container. So that's one way you can certainly do things, and floral attributions and bringing the nature in from the outside. I was just thinking then, if you've been to museums, if you used to travel a lot, why not just go back through all that old stuff and pull out all the postcards of when you were traveling and when you used to buy prints or small prints. Go and pull them out. Stop having them in a rolled up tube lying under a bed.
Because that also associates, it reminds you of, it's amazing that how images can take you back to that time and place. And if that's a really, fantastic experience when you were travelling, and I've had some great experiences travelling through, museums, throughout Europe, and I did collect postcards to every, city that I went to, and as soon as I look back on that postcard, it brings back all these things that I've forgotten, because they are in there in your little filing system, but it just takes that visual to really bring that out, and it's a great way, this is my happy sort of place.
It was my happy place. Yeah, forget about those stupid affirmation calendars or ridiculous things about inspiring things, or forget all that. Just go back to your past.
Yeah, exactly. Your happy memories.
Yeah, we all travelled. We all love doing that at some point, and we should all do it again. We should all go and...
Oh, that's right. Exactly.
When was the last time, goodness, that I went to an art museum? That's really appalling.
If you have to think about it,
that's bad.
Too long.
That's too long. And so check out as well what's going on in the local art scene, because here in Hornsby we've got Wallarubba, of course, which has constant churning over of local artists. We were mentioning just before the break that we don't have a huge art scene here in Hornsby. We have, of course, the wonderful Studio Arts, which provide life and colour and all that and they work very well with small businesses as well, and they do have their own touring exhibitions that are often on, to make a point of going to see those. We don't have a lot of art galleries though. Is there more over in the Northern Beaches where you are?
Yes, and I'm really fortunate to live in an area where the council really supports local artists. I exhibited recently at the Creative Space at North Curl, and that was completely funded by the council. And the reason why these things are so important is people don't realise how much it costs to have an exhibition in a commercial space. Framing your work, the materials. I'm not just going to use. You have to use top quality paints and brushes, and they cost hundreds of dollars. You can't use the cheap stuff, and framing hundreds of dollars again. So you're already backward even before you've got your foot in the door of a gallery. And then a lot of the commercial spaces, when you go in there, you've got to pay for the opening night, and of course cheese and wine for everyone, absolutely. So that does add up. And you've also often you pay to rent the space, and then they take 40% commission.
Wow, 40%, that's huge.
That's right. And then, a lot of people sort of, they look at an artwork and they don't understand all these costs that have happened even before that art piece is on the wall, and they question the price when, really that artist is probably only making a couple of $100 at the end of the day from that one piece after they've gone through all those costs. So the creative space in Manly is just brilliant because they have this year they've had the 4 elements. They've had earth already, and they had air. So that was a group exhibitions, and they had earth and then water, and they're going to have air is next, and then they'll have fire. Mm-hmm. So that's their that's the sort of agenda this year for the group shows. I was involved in water, so I had a couple of pieces there, and they had the opening night, and they had a beautiful band playing, and they really support the community, local artists, and it's about getting the local artists out there. So yeah, that I'm lucky for that. The Ku-ring-gai Council, they have artist residencies, and it's about going on the website and checking. It does take a bit of time to submit for these things, put in your applications. And I imagine with the so few councils doing anything like this, it's pretty competitive too. Exactly, yes, it's very competitive. The fact that they have those spaces that are accessible to local artists, and the fact that there's that community exists, that's really wonderful. Yes, exactly. So, it is really important, and art is such, having a creative around you is, I think, imagine how boring it would be if it didn't exist. Everything would be perpendicular. Yeah, that's right. And, people need good, aesthetically pleasing things around them, whether they're aware of it or not, or, conscious about what they like in particular. You don't need to be an artist to know what you personally want to have surrounding you. If it feels right, then that's right for you. There are no rules, so where that's concerned. Well, that's true, and so going out and going and finding out where these exhibitions are on. These things are open during the day. It's quite easy for you to down tools, head over to one of these spaces and check out the art and just enjoy it and immerse yourself in it. It's a good way to really switch off that part of your brain. And that's what we were talking a little bit before in the break was. You need to be able to switch off your brain, but with enough, we talk about meditation, we talk about, what's that word, being in yourself. Mindfulness. That's the one. Yep. See, this is another part of that part of my brain that just doesn't work. Mindfulness and switching off and relaxing. And how do you think small business can maybe access that mindfulness whilst at work? If you really just want to go, oh my God, my brain's about to explode, I just need to switch off for a minute. You can go for a walk, absolutely. You can take the dog for a walk, you can go into the garden, you can go and check out one of these galleries. But what about maybe grabbing a colouring book and having it on your desk and having some colouring in pencils there, so when you just need to do something a bit different and look away from the screen, that's maybe something people can do? Oh, I love those books. You don't need to be able to draw, but just that engagement with just using your hand to do that colouring, and just the act of moving and putting together a colour combination, and that can really be therapeutic even if you're not aware of it, and it does switch your mind off from the busyness, and it really is about when you're stressed, how focused are you really? You're not, at the end of the day. And it's very, very difficult to remain. We're not all, we're not all Buddhist monks. It would be fantastic. But, and it really, the day can get, you can get wound up quite easily just with having to do numerous tasks at the one time. And it's so important to remember that you're most efficient when you can reflect and you have that space and you're not stressed, and and making sure you take that time. And that is one of the easiest things to do, I think, just colouring in or
doodling,
drawing some cartoons. Exactly.
Yeah. So don't be afraid to have one of those cool, pads of paper. Go out to Kiki K and treat yourself to something really funky and cool and some nice colouring in things, and just have them sitting there. Because even just the temptation of just having them sit there, you might just be like, I just got to switch off. I'm just going to have 5 minutes of colouring in, and then I can come back and be focused again. Because we're very good at punishing ourselves as small businesses. We're very good at going, okay, I don't have any meetings. I've got 8 hours today, and I'm going to work solidly for 8 hours. Really? Who are you kidding? You wouldn't be doing that in the corporate world. Why do we try and expect to make ourselves do that when we're small businesses?
That's true. And for me personally, I love to create mood boards before I start painting a piece. And when I have my art classes, I'll take in giant, beautiful pictures of space and earth, aerial shots of glaciers. So it's like imagining that you're actually a planet or you're in space. And because I teach kids as well, on the weekends sometimes. And it's just so much fun to look at these beautiful pieces of photography and imagine that you're skydiving and you're looking at the aerial shot of the earth. And that can be another way of taking your imagination and switching off and imagining what kind of mood that creates.
Out-of-body experiences.
Yes,
looking down upon yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that's really great. And look, thank you so much for coming on the show today, for sharing us your top tips, your wonderful ideas on how to break out of that everyday mundane, and a little bit about your art therapy and your history about what you do. Now, can you give us a bit of a rundown about your website and any exhibitions or things that you've got coming up that we can keep track of?
Sure. So I've been applying for a few exhibitions. I hope to be involved in the AIR exhibition at the Creative Space. That hasn't been confirmed yet. And I've put in to have a solo show next year. And I also want to make handmade kimonos out of digital prints of my art. And they're all one-off pieces and handmade by me. And I've already got the pattern for it. I love sewing as well in my spare time. But my website is my full name, so it's natashakowalski.com.
How do you spell that last name?
So Kowalski.
And we'll have a link of that on our Facebook page, of course.
I know,
and some of those beautiful
easy to
artworks.
forget. So that I always talk about, my latest show, but that's what I've got in the pipeline, and I've applied for a couple of art competitions as well. So.
Well, best of luck with those.
Watch this space.
Yes, indeed. It's so exciting to have a local artist on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And make sure, everybody, that you do check out the local art opportunities that have for our local artists here in Hornsby, although we have talked about that. It's not a great deal, but there's certainly, by the sounds of it, lots going on the Northern Beaches and also down at Ku-ring-gai. So check out those council websites for more info. We'll, of course, have all of today's podcast, if you missed any of it, with Natasha up on our website in the next few days. So keep an eye on the website. And, of course, if you subscribe to our newsletter, you can keep abreast of all the networking, workshopping and business activities that are going on for small business up on the North Shore of Sydney. So this has been Small Biz Matters, the half-hour program where you work on your business rather than in it. You've been listening to Triple H 100.1 FM, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 9 a.m.